Hello friends. So I want to do what I'm going to call trauma talks. Just short little talks about what trauma is. How do we work with trauma? Giving some psychoeducation to everyone out there about really truly what is trauma? How do we work with it? So to start that, let's kind of go into what is trauma. So the word trauma is used all the time, right? We're always hearing, I have trauma, something was traumatizing. So what does that mean? It really means that it's an experience that felt overwhelming. Oftentimes there is a sense of terror, a sense of rejection, a sense of shame, intense fear, which we said was terror, some kind of terror or some kind of separation anxiety, which are different. They are actually hardwired differently. We are born, so even in utero, we have circuits that are for terror or fear, what we would call fear, like run, there's a threat. And so we're born with this circuit that can be turned on, and it's that feeling. And so at a high level, it's terror when we feel, terrorized by something where there's an imminent threat, and that kind of fear comes into our body. And then there's what we would say like a separation anxiety, like I am going to be abandoned. And so for young mammals and humans, that means we'll die. So it's this ingrained, intense kind of separation anxiety. And when those type of anxieties happen over time, and really in the human world, we learn this feeling of shame. And so these things get locked in the body. Another one is rage or intense anger, and that's from the fight response. There's a threat, and for whatever reason, our body activates, right? Or really, not even saying for whatever reason, our body does. It activates it to fight the threat. And so these things get lodged in the body. So now we have either a separation type anxiety, a feeling of rejection, abandonment, terror, frightened feelings, feelings of imminent danger, that we're in danger. We feel unsafe. Maybe that's a way to kind of say it in Latin terms. We feel unsafe in that type of fear, and or some kind of anger or rage. And these are all, like I said, they're circuits that we have. And so all mammals have them, and we're born with them. They happen even before birth. So, like I said, in utero, we develop these circuits, and they are to survive. They're survival mechanisms. We all have them, so you can pretend them away, but we all have them. And so when those get activated in our system because an experience we're having is overwhelming, the body gets activated. And if there is not resolution, if there is not soothing that occurs soon after that experience of these overwhelming emotions, because we are meant to have these emotions, we are meant to feel rage and frightened and afraid, and all these intense emotions, right? So we're hardwired to be able to feel them. But what's supposed to happen is we feel them to get away from a threat or to connect again with someone. So if it's separation anxiety, it's like, hey, mom is gone, caregiver is gone, and I need to reconnect because that's my lifeline. I can't survive without that, right? So if we don't, the resolution would be that we got to fight and we survived, or the danger went away, or we got to run away and the danger was no longer present, or we reconnected with that other person in a human's life anyway, with that caregiver or that person, or we were soothed, someone else came in and soothed us. Those type of things would be resolution. But when those things don't happen, it get lodged and stuck in the body. And so the body keeps the score. That saying comes from a really famous trauma specialist, and Bessel van Kolk, and he he is really talking about how it gets lodged. It gets lodged in our body and our minds. And so it's really kind of set, if we thought of it in kind of a more latent term, it's set in the midbrain, let's say, and it's these memories, these images, these feeling states, these body sensations that occurred during the time that the first or initial trauma happened, and it gets lodged and it gets stuck, and it's not filed away nicely in the brain in a way that, we can just access it and go, hey, that's done with. It's not done. And so anytime it then gets triggered, or if it happens again, it reinforces this. And this is really what PTSD is, right? Or complex trauma. And so many of us walk around with trauma states and don't even realize it, aren't even aware of it. So again, it can be anything that this happens. So we could just have been invalidated in a situation. And this can happen beyond just a young person. But of course, the younger we are, the more disorganized it is, because it's harder for us to handle these overwhelming emotions. We need the support around us in order to do that. And so what happens is, you can be my age, 43, right? You can be any age, you can be 90, you can be 20. And if it's unresolved, you relive it over and over and over and over, and many times without knowing it. I mean, some people know that they're reliving a trauma because it's so invasive and they're aware of it. And that's usually what we see with, like, say, war veterans, things like that. But many of us walk around and don't even realize that the reactions that we're having in our day-to-day life are based on something that was traumatic to us. And oftentimes it was something that wasn't thought by others to be traumatic. And so it gets invalidated, and then we don't understand that it really was traumatic. In fact, we often beat ourselves up about it, like, well, I shouldn't be traumatized by that. And we move away from it and we avoid it. So that is kind of, in a nutshell, a definition of what trauma is. And it is lodged in our minds and our body. So we'll have some more further talks and kind of learn more about this and how it presents and how we can work with it and what it looks like so that we can recognize it, because we really can't work with it unless we understand what's going on. Thank you. Namaste.